here we are back with WOMCY Talks Careers in Cybersecurity. I'm Leticia Gamble. I'm the founder and president at WOMCY Latam Women in Cybersecurity. And I have Charlie Coulange here with me today. Hi, Charlie.
Hi, Leticia. How are you?
Great. So Charlie's our leader for the US for WOMCY Talks. Today we have the pleasure of talking to my friend Jovianna Gonzalez, who is the lead security engineer at CyberClan. We're going to be talking today about Jovianna's career with a focus in her background in forensics. Now, following this path that we have around different careers in cybersecurity, let's learn from Jovianna around her path and her journey around cybersecurity. Hi, Jovianna.
Hello. Hi, Leticia. Hi, Charlie. Thank you so much for having me today. So to give you a little bit of background on myself and how I got into cybersecurity and forensics, let's see, I hold a bachelor's degree in legal studies and a master's in administration. I am also certified as a computer forensic expert, a cybercrime investigator, and an e-discovery specialist. So how did I start my career? I was in the legal field working for global law firms for 15 years, and I was asked to attend a e-discovery seminar, and I immediately took an interest on data collection and processing. And then shortly after that, I accepted a position in Washington, D.C. as an e-discovery specialist. And Lord behold, I bumped into forensics. I was approached one day by an attorney and they're like, hey, Jovianna, can you do me a favor? Can you extract these text messages for me? We need to use them for purposes of litigation. And I looked at him and I go, yeah, of course, I could extract it. So I went and got certified. And I became a consultant for digital forensics now. I went on my own. I did forensics. I testified in civil and federal cases as an expert. And then I started attending cybersecurity seminars. And from there, I decided to just go with the career. And I went and got certified as a cybercrime investigator. And here I am today. I have worked, in the last 5-6 years in the field of forensics and cybersecurity, and I will have to tell you, it is never a dull day. It's exciting. It's chasing, an evil every day, and that's basically how I got here today.
Well, that's fantastic, and Charlie and I are always enjoying the background of so many talented professionals, and really thankful that you're able to connect with us for this interview. Now, going further to understand here and be able to also guide our audience who is eventually interested in forensics, what does it take to start then a career in forensics? You spoke about your certifications, but should you have a technical background?
Leticia, that's an excellent question. I started with zero background. However, I have discovered that, yes, you do need a technical background. I would recommend to get a bachelor's degree in introduction of science or computer science. I would recommend to go on online courses. There's a great free online course, which is from the Harvard University. It's called Introduction to Computer Science. I would also recommend being able to network with professionals, like-minded professionals, so that you could grow your network, and that would help you open opportunities for when you're seeking employment as well. So you do need a bachelor's. You do need to also find what area of forensics interests you the most, or cybersecurity, because you have so many branches. So you have to find what's your specialty. What is it that you like? so that you could understand what you're looking at, what you're going to be able to explain, and why is it doing that. Because, part of an investigation, you have to be able to answer the 5 W's: the what, where, when, why, and how. Well, actually, I'm going to correct myself on the 5 W's.
The 5 W there.
It's the who, what, where, when, and why. The how is always very important to have as well. But those are the 5 W's that you need to learn how to be able to properly conduct an investigation. So back to, do you need technical background? Yes, comes very helpful, because you're going to be reviewing certain artifacts, and you need to know where they're coming from, and then be able to explain how a threat actor got moved around in the system, or how someone exfiltrated the data. So yes, it's very important that you're able to have some type of a technical background. And there's many available online training, especially now with these times. You have sans.org that is very helpful for any type of online training, for blogs, for resources. I mean, they're the #1 place to go to. So yes, I definitely would recommend a technical background.
Great. And what do you think, or how is the job opportunity in cybersecurity? What is the growth opportunity or areas that you see more demand around forensics?
Charlie, that's an excellent question. And, I would have to say that the sky, there's no limit. There is boundless opportunities in every area, whether you want to get into penetrating, whether you want to get into endpoint, whether you want to get into incident response and forensics, into governance. It just depends on what your interest is the most, but it's a very high in demand, but you also have to be qualified. So you have to come in with some education, certification, and relevant experience to be able to conduct an investigation and be able to, seek a good place of employment.
Okay. And what would you say that you have seen in your different roles in cybersecurity in regards to the different challenges that Latin women face today?
That's a good question. In my end, in the industry, in the places that I've worked, I've seen very little or zero women, Latin women, at least in cybersecurity or forensics. It's definitely male dominated. Even when I attend, I'll give you an example. When I attend scoping calls, and I attend kickoff calls, even the IT managers are male. It's male dominated. I rarely, run into the call that you're gonna be speaking woman to woman on so technical on networks and systems. So I see there's a very huge shortage on Latin women in the industry. There's definitely a need for us Latinas to come more together and be able to grow within the workforce.
So following on that, what would you think companies are doing inside and outside to promote more women and diversity in cybersecurity, and what else can they do?
Well, I know in sense of to be able to promote, I know that they have diversity organizations that they reach out to certain, like WOMCY, is an organization that promotes women in technology. So I know that many organizations are reaching out to these type of organizations to be able to bring in this type of talent and recruit them into their organization. But I think that a way to be able to promote it more would be to give more women the opportunity to grow within their organization as well, and train them or offer these type of courses so they could have an advancement in their career. Because, what's forensics and cybersecurity is that you have to have the desire to constantly be learning, because it requires you to constantly be reading, doing online courses. Education is huge, to be able, and you have so many resources available. So I think if these organizations offer these opportunities to their current employees to be able to grow within their organization, will also be very, will be well for women.
You're right. You're right. So so let me ask you, could be an easy or difficult question, depending on how you look at it. Can you give me one word to describe your love for cybersecurity and forensics and what you do? Kind of like the highlight of your career.
Well, one word. Okay. I mean, I have various words, considering that this is a challenging, every day is a challenge in the industry. But I would have to say love for it. I would say, or description of to what it is, I would say it's evil. Evil.
What about the different words that the leaders that we have been interviewing have provided? And I think at the end, we're going to be compiling a very interesting list. And you have provided now a very interesting word. Now I have to ask, why evil, Jovianna?
Well, that's a great question. Well, there's many reasons why I consider evil. Not only is it something dark, it's usually, you're searching for darkness within, to shed some light on the organization and how they could patch up their organization, but in the sense is that why it's evil is because, if threat actors are right now accessing, compromising hospitals, healthcares, education, and they're encrypting their data just for a ransom during this crisis, I consider that to be evil. So I have changed my perspective of forensics and cybersecurity to evil, because it could be very dark. It's a darkness. You're searching through people's data. You have to see, certain things you don't want to see, photos, certain communications of how people communicate. I mean, it could be dark sometimes when
dark and ugly. I can imagine.
Yeah, dark and ugly. Yeah, it's the ugly truth.
Exactly. Yeah, to see the soul of how people and who people are.
Yeah, it's just like I always hold whenever I meet someone new, and has to do because I come from the forensics background. I could be out on a date, or I could be in a bar and I meet someone. It always crosses my mind. I'm like, if they could only give me their cell phone for like 15 minutes, and I can image it and go read all their text messages and go look at the internet browser, I would tell what type of person they are, how they speak, how they communicate, what are their interests, be able to trace, their patterns. It's you see so much you could tell from someone's cell phone. From data, what they delete, what they don't want others to see. It's dark.
Yeah.
I consider it evil.
Yeah, I think it's a very good point. We keep thinking about the threats that we can see and what is over in the news, but there is such a dark place out there, a dark web, and just like you're saying, it's related to an individual. Sometimes it's not even related to an entire company of what's going on, right? So, for instance, it can be something that is directed into one individual or to an entire company.
Correct. Yes. It just all depends. It all depends. That's one word I really learned in my now in the industry is everything is it depends. That's a word that you just depends on what you're reviewing, depends on the size of what you're reviewing. It depends on how you have to respond to an incident, or it depends on what they're looking for. It's very interesting, the career, how you could develop, and things you could grow into, that forensics and cybersecurity. It really gives you it makes you think outside the box. I would say that when I've been working in the legal field, I was there for 20 years, 15, 20 years. And it required certain critical thinking. But now, as like an investigator, you have to have this critical thinking and be able to think outside the box. It's a very interesting career. It's fascinating. I have a passion for it.
I was just going to say, this is fascinating. I think we could be talking for a lot longer on just to all the stories that you have. Now, it's probably going to be hard. Can you describe your typical day as a professional?
Typical day as a professional. Okay. Well, first, I have to start off with a really large cup of coffee. That's number one. No doubt about that one. Besides that, typical, checking emails, checking in with the team to see if there's been any new developments, checking your calendar, getting them on, checking the alerts, incident response hotline to see if any new calls come in. That's my typical day, but usually there's no really typical day in forensics or cybersecurity, because here we come back to the word, it depends. It depends on the scope of projects you're getting in. It depends on what type of data you need to look, what you need to explain, how you need, sometimes you need to be able to determine how a threat actor accessed the environment. Was there any lateral movement? Was there any data exfiltrated? So it just depends on what type of project you're working on. And then it also depends, just on the scope of the project will depend how many hours you work, because, sometimes you could work, you work 8 hours. That's great. That was a short day. But sometimes it requires you to work 10, 12 hours, 14 hours, depending on if it's a remediation you have to do due to, an incident, breach. So it all depends. The day is, every day is a different day.
Yeah, that's something that I always say. And I agree with you that in cybersecurity, you always have to be studying. And it's a profession that requires us to continue to be studying. Now, are there any other skills that you find that are very relevant to your job, to your role right now? That it's good for people to understand that these are some of the skills that you need to develop to have if you want to work in forensics.
Sure, yeah. Well, to work in forensics, you have to document. You have to document everything. Everything is step by step by step. So I would say that you have to have documenting, critical thinking. I would say pay attention to detail, organization, and just basically be able to always think outside the box, because everything is not black and white. There's always going to be gray. And there's sometimes sometimes you can't even find the answers. Sometimes they ask you to do something and you just don't have the answer because the logs were cleared, or they used a forensic tool to be able to wipe. So sometimes you just don't have an answer. So it requires you to have excellent communication to be able to deliver, to the client, or to the insured, to whoever your endpoint is. So presentations are also very important as well.
Well, very good. Charlie, why don't we close it out?
Sure, of course. So as a final message, how do you see the cybersecurity profession in the face of the new present that we are experiencing today?
That's a good question. And in my opinion, I see that the threat actors have an advantage on us. They are using some sophisticated techniques, tactics, methods to be able to, compromise organizations and evade detection and even punishment. And I don't foresee it to stop. Since this crisis that we're going through, ransomware attacks have doubled, and which has its good and its bad, in the sense that it's bad for organizations and bad for some people that have to pay this ransom. But for the industry, for us professionals, it's a job security, in the sense that, we're always busy. We're full every day of work, of new cases coming in, which is good for us in the sense as a professional. But as for, the world, it's just, it's evil, it's darkness. And none of your data is ever secure. So you have to know that, whatever you put out there, it's available to whoever wants to have access to it. So I think it's being able to give people awareness. I think, the public needs to have more awareness of how to protect themselves, organizations on training their employees to be able to know not to open, an unrecognized attachment, so that malware is not dropped into their environment. So we go back into training, education, and awareness. So that's how I see where we're going now, moving forward. So it's just cybersecurity is just growing so rapidly. There's so many boundless opportunities for both women and men, and it would be great to have more Latin women in the industry. It'd be great to be able to have a Latin woman, be able to, be on the other side and talk to them, or at work, be able to have a coworker and say, and be able to communicate with more females, with Latin women.
Absolutely.
That I see.
Yeah. That's the work that we're doing, and bringing people like you who have had a fascinating career and talking about this in such a passionate way. It's really motivating for the two of us here conducting this interview, and I can only imagine that's motivating for all the young professionals or graduates that are choosing a path in cybersecurity, right? It's all about that. So thank you so much, Jovianna. Charlie, thank you very much for being here with us today, and look forward to continue this conversation at another time, but also continue to plug into WOMCY Talks Careers in Cybersecurity. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Leticia. Thank you, Charlie, for the opportunity. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.